Is good, everyone. This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free. To live your best life, you must live label free. And I'm back with another incredible guest. My next guest is a certified Somatica sex and intimacy coach, sexological body worker, holistic pelvic care practitioner, tantra educator, and somatic experiencing trauma practitioner. Please welcome Xanet. Did I say that right?
Xanet.
Xanet. Okay. Well, I should have clarified that before we started recording, but welcome. I'm super pumped for this conversation.
Thank you so much. I am super excited to be here and to help your audience learn how to improve their sex life. Like, we want to do that for everybody.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's such an important part of our vitality.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you not only just are a coach here, we're helping people improve their sex lives, but you also do retreats as well.
Yeah. I mean, my main focus these days are really helping couples, a lot of whom are in sexless marriages, through my retreat process to
Okay.
really help them learn how to reconnect, to refine intimacy, to heal the wounds that have brought them into a place where they're in a sexless marriage. And I do that really in like a private retreat setting over 4 or 5 days.
I love that. So let's kind of back up a little bit. And why don't we tell the audience a little bit the reason why you stepped into this field and into this and being passionate about helping people reconnect in their relationships.
Yeah, well, so I have the experience of what it's like to live in a sexless marriage for over 26 years, right? 26 years is a long period of time.
Yeah, that's crazy. I would probably
Yeah,
have to kill that person or my like I'd be out. I'm sorry, I'd be out. Like, sorry, peace. Sorry.
peace out. And so, and I have my own reasons for it. A lot of it was around my own sexual wounding and some experiences I had growing up and even as a young woman. But when I left my marriage and really took a deep dive into my sexuality, it just became very clear that, I was a lawyer by training, a healthcare lawyer. So I've always been in the healthcare field. But it became very clear that as I started healing my wounds and opening myself up to sexuality, that this is really what I was most passionate about in the world, and that I really wanted to help other people and other couples, women, couples, men, to be able to come into contact with their sexuality because it's such a powerful and important part of who we are.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I think that it's very healthy to have
Mm-hmm.
a good sex drive. I think it's very healthy to connect with your partner in that way. I've been very free with my sexuality for as long as I can remember. Like I kind of lead with that in a lot of ways, which is not always good. I know that. But it's been a very powerful part of my life in
Mm-hmm.
my relationships. So when I talk to someone or hear someone that's in a sexless marriage, I'm just like, oh my God, how could you do that?
Right, right.
Like I'm like my husband has been working so much, like we haven't been connecting as often as we'd like, and I'm bringing it up. Like, okay, what's going on here? Like we got to make some time. Like I'm pushing it because I'm like, okay, I'm time's ticking. I said either you're gonna take care of me or else I'm gonna go find it somewhere else.
And I think what that's a really important point that you're bringing up, right? Like,
Yeah,
you have to make sex a priority.
yeah.
That's very, very important in the relationship in order to be able to sustain it over the long term, especially in long-term relationships, because we get into all of our crazy like patterns. And then it just becomes like very low on the to-do list, right?
Yeah.
And where we want to elevate that in order to be able to have a healthy long-term relationship and a healthy sexual relationship.
What would you say that happens? I mean, yeah, life's happening, right? But when two people are in a relationship, they met, they found love, they got married or whatever, not married, they're together, and that sexual physical connection slowly dies out over time.
Yeah.
Why
So,
does that happen? Why do people not prioritize that?
well, I think there's two things that happen. One is like in the beginning of a relationship, we have all of this new sexual relationship energy, all of our hormones that are flowing. We want to have sex all the time. That's very normal. That's Mother Nature's way to make sure that, we're procreating
Yeah.
essentially. But that energy normally drops after 18 months. And yeah, right. And after that new relationship energy dissipates, the hormones actually come down. We actually are in a different place within the relationship itself. So part of what happens is like, oh, I just don't feel horny anymore. It's not like I'm not attracted to my partner, but that
Yeah.
surge that we had just goes away. And that's normal. But a
Mm.
lot of couples get stuck in that fear of like, oh, I'm not as attracted to her anymore. I'm not attracted to him as anymore. And I'm not sure exactly, what to do. And so I think that's part of like the beginning of the frustrations that I see that couples have. And then I think the second piece of it, which is probably more prevalent, especially for couples that are in long-term marriages, when they show up at my doorstep, is that not having sex, Deanna, is usually a symptom of other issues that are going on in the marriage itself. Right.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're not having sex is probably related to the fact that the emotional connection isn't that secure. The emotional safety isn't there, that there's been arguments and conflicts that have never been repaired. They haven't done the emotional work. And so they start feeling more and more like roommates,
Yeah.
and rather than like lovers. So that's a huge issue, and it's kind of normal in a long-term relationship, unfortunately, right? But if you don't have the tools to fix it, which I definitely provide to all of my clients, right, then you kind of get in this situation where we've had a fight, and then we've had another fight and another fight, we've never repaired it, and all of a sudden we're pissed off at each other and we don't want to have sex with each other,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Huh. And I feel like that cycle can create other trauma within the psyche that
Totally.
disconnects you even further. So not only are you not having sex, connecting on that physical level, but you're also creating other traumas underneath that, not connecting.
Yeah, I mean, it's, when you're feeling disconnected from your partner, if you don't feel emotionally safe, this one person who you're supposed to have the most secure attachment with, right?
Yeah.
That can trigger a childhood wound and a childhood attachment wound, right?
Okay.
It can, create, it could make sex uncomfortable and painful, which was my own personal experience. And then therefore your body doesn't want to have sex anymore because it just wants to protect you from
Wow.
something that's, really challenging. Or it could just feel like not safe, not in a physically not safe way, but in an emotionally
Emotional. Yeah.
emotional way. And that can be very traumatic, where all of a sudden, like, again, this person that you've, this is your fairy tale, right? This
Yeah.
is your prince or princess who was supposed to walk into the room and save you. And all of a sudden you look at them and you're like, oh wow, like this
Yeah.
isn't what I bargained for. So, I think that does create a lot of disconnection and more traumatic experiences for couples.
And so when you allow that to happen for an extended period of time, like yourself,
Yeah.
what there's got to be something that erodes in us because it's like
Yeah.
you're not watering a plant. You gotta like
Yeah.
this is what I tell my no, I'm serious. I tell my husband, I'm like, listen, like you gotta look at this like you have to water this because if you don't water it, it will die. And I'm thirsty.
I love that.
Because I really believe that like you have to make the effort. And even if you're tired or whatever, like things come up, I get that, but there you have to make that effort and make that like a priority just to kind of and there's like the not only the physical but the emotional, but it also I just think it's so good for your body, like it's healthy.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why we should be having sex. There's all sorts of hormones that get released. There's
Yeah.
cortisol that gets released. Those are all really important, for our health. Orgasms have a lot of health benefits to them, as well. But, when you're in this very, very long dry period, 26 years was a long period. Yeah, I think that it really has a huge impact for many women on their psyche. I mean, I just worked with a couple. They've been married over 20 years. They haven't had sex, 30 years. They haven't had sex in 15 or so. Right. And what the woman said to me is like, I just felt so broken, like I wasn't attractive, that there was something wrong with me. Right. And that was my experience too. I didn't feel sexy.
Right.
I didn't
Yeah.
feel like attractive to my partner or to any other person. I wore like, I was pretty thin, but I wore like these big, bulky clothes to hide my body. And there's a lot of shame that shows up when you're in that type of experience. It happens for women, but it happens for men as well.
Mm.
They feel rejected, right? They feel like I can never like meet the needs that, meet her needs. Very,
Mm.
very frustrated around that as well. So it's not good for either party. It does really have a very significant impact. So I think it's really important that when there are issues, that people really address them much sooner than later, because they don't go away by themselves. They
Yeah.
just get worse and worse and worse as you end up having sex less and less and less frequently.
Yeah. And do you feel that, or in your experience with the people that you work with, they're not having the conversation around why they're not having sex?
Totally. Not only they're not having the conversation about why they're not having sex, they're not even having a conversation about sex, which is part of the problem, right? They've never even had the conversation about what, this couple I just worked with, like they never even talked about what they like and what they didn't like until they
Oh
showed
my
up in my
goodness.
office, right? But honest to God, that is not an uncommon experience with
I believe it.
many, many, many couples. It's a very, very significant problem, and it can be addressed. Um, but if you don't realize that it's a problem or you don't address it, then again, you just like throw it under the rug and you never have a solution to it, and things will just continue to deteriorate.
Yeah. And I feel like it's like we're so programmed that the we're not supposed to talk about sex because it's, taboo, right? I mean,
Right.
they teach us sex education in school, but they don't really ever talk about the importance of having a healthy, nurturing, loving sexual relationship and the importance of it in your marriage or relationships to keep it healthy long term. And I think it kind of starts like at the foundational level of how we change that idea of it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to say that you want certain things, that you need this from your partner. I'm certainly not shy about it, clearly. And I think more women should feel comfortable being that way. I don't feel bad or like ashamed. Like, no, I'm a healthy, vibrant individual and I want to have all the feels.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another important point is, and I talk about this in the free gift that your folks are going to get who listen to this, is that we also need to redefine what sex is,
Mm, mm.
right? Because we have this very, very narrow view of what sex is, which is
Labeled.
basically
Yeah.
sexual. Exactly. There
Yeah.
you go. Sexual intercourse. That's it. If you're not having sexual intercourse, you're not having sex. And that's not true. There's
No.
lots of different ways to connect with your partner sexually. And some of it doesn't even involve touch, right?
Yeah.
So the more we can really widen the definition of what sex is, the more we're able to find places where we can connect with our partner. Even if we're not in the mood to have sexual intercourse, maybe we just lie naked with each other, or maybe we give each other a massage, or maybe we just talk dirty,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
that's also, in my view, any type of erotic experience is having sex. So we really, really, yes, label free, right?
Yeah.
We really, really need to take that label off, and find a new definition for what sex is in our relationships.
So with the couples that you work with, and especially specifically the women, I want to focus on the women because I feel like when we lose disconnect from that part of ourselves to even like, and this is just experience with conversations I've had with other women in my life, that you come to a point where you're almost ashamed to talk about it.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
yeah.
so like if you going through your coaching with these people, like how do you get them to drop that shame and look at it from a much healthier place?
So shame is one of those things, right, that happens inside of ourselves. right? It's
Yeah.
it's an alone thing. Like you can't feel shame by without feeling like it's just internal inside of you. Not that I am bad, or not that I did something bad, but I am a bad person.
Right.
And the best way to start to really dissipate shame is to talk about it, right? When we talk about it, when we bring light into it, when we bring it into the open, we start normalizing it. And that's really important, right? So
Yeah.
I say to women, just me talking about my own story, the book that I wrote that,
Yeah.
has my story in it. People read that and they're like, I can so relate to you. And I felt so much better knowing that I'm not the only person, because most women think they're the only person that's
Yeah.
really struggling around this, but you're not. And so beginning to talk about it with a coach, with a therapist, with a girlfriend, with your partner, really starts to help you take a breath and be like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm not the only person. I can start to allow some of that shame to dissipate. And I think I spend a lot of time in my retreats de-shamifying. I don't know if that's a
Yeah.
real word, but that's what we use. De-shamifying the culture around sex, people's beliefs around sex, the shame that people experience as well, especially women, because we've been so socialized to feel that sex is dirty, sex is shameful if we go outside of the marriage, if we have sex before we're married,
Right.
right? Like all of the ways in which society puts those conditionings upon us really creates a tremendous amount of shame for women. And recognizing that is really important as well.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with you 1000%. And like what happens in that relationship when you're working with a couple and you're peeling away those layers, those labels of shame and because I mean the a man has to feel certain things too, not just the female.
Yes, no, everybody everybody has a lot of experience around that. Well, it's very freeing. They'll say to me like, "Oh, like I feel like a whole weight has been lifted off of my shoulders.
Yeah.
Like this is something that I never thought I'd be able to experience, or this is a conversation I never thought I'd be able to have with my partner. But here we are sitting in front of you, Shanae, and we're talking about our fantasies, and we're talking about how we want to be touched, and we're giving our partners feedback. I never thought that we would be able to do something like that. So I think it's so um, eye-opening for them. They get so many like ahas, right? And are able to walk away with like a whole new understanding of their partner. That's really the key thing, a whole new understanding of
Yeah.
themselves and what they want, and then also how to interact with their partner and what pleases their partner as well. Because, Deanna, we all want to please our partner. And I see this
Yes.
particularly with men. Men really want to turn their partner on, but what they don't understand, which I also talk a lot about in some of my videos and my free gift, is there's a huge difference between women's arousal and men's arousal.
Yes.
And because we've never been educated about it, a lot of men particularly expect that a woman's going to get aroused the same way that he does.
Yep.
That's just not true,
Yeah.
not in any way, shape, or form. So that the education is a huge piece of being able to change behavior and change patterns.
Wow. Yeah. And it's not an immediate fix. Like someone is listening to this and they're like, oh, I can relate to this. I'm having issues in my marriage. It's been a long time now. Like it takes a little while to kind of rebuild that trust between you and your partner. Because I would say, I would think it's got to be trust because
Yes.
somewhere along the way, you've gotten uncomfortable with being naked together, touching each other, and you lose trust there. Right. And so like, that's got to be an interesting rebuild
Yes.
between that those people.
Yeah, and a lot of it is the emotional work that we do,
Yeah.
right? Before we can even like delve into the physical contact, the physical intimacy piece, we've got to work through some of the emotional conflicts and they have to feel like they're emotionally safe with each other. And I work with a lot of couples where there's been affairs and betrayals, a lot. I would say that's a huge percentage. And that can be very challenging for people, obviously. But if they're here, if they're showing up in my office, then I know that they're really wanting to get past it and using that experience as an opportunity to learn and for personal growth and to create more connection and intimacy with them.
Yeah.
But but it doesn't always happen quickly. This couple that I just had here, they did really well. They were they were coming from an affair, a very, very long one.
Ooh,
And yeah, and but by the end of the retreat, they were like learning how to give each other sensual massages. So that was a huge step, right? And that's
yeah.
not uncommon. That's not an uncommon experience. Couples that are in sexless marriages come to my retreat, and by day 3 or 4, they come back and they're like, "Whoa, we had like this great sexual experience that we haven't had in like 4 years." I'm like,
It's
fantastic.
amazing.
It's
That's gotta feel
amazing.
so rewarding for you.
It's wonderful. But I'm super happy to help save marriages,
Yeah,
to save
absolutely.
save relationships.
Yes. Amen. Amen to that. More happy relationships, less divorce. Like, let's keep things like on. We can never stop learning and improving and being a better partner to the person that we love.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
what would you say gives more pushback, the male or the female when you start this work?
Ask me that question
So,
one more time.
so who typically gives more pushback when they start this process, the male or the female? I'm just curious.
Pushback.
Because they both have to be willing to want to start, but it's got to
Yeah,
be
I
a very
I mean,
uncomfortable.
so I go through a screening process with all of my couples,
Oh,
and if
okay.
I feel like there's one part of the couple that's really not into it, I won't have them come to a
Oh, okay.
retreat, because it's not going to work. Like
Right.
both people have to be a hell yes. Like we both acknowledge this is a problem. We don't know how to fix it, but we're willing to do the work.
Yeah.
In the other situation, you'd have to work with just one of the partners, a partner that was willing,
Yeah.
right? And help them, see what's going on for them. But it's impossible to do work with a couple, for me at least, unless they're both like 100%, in.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah,
Um, Xanet, where can people find you, connect with you? You mentioned a free gift where they
yeah.
can learn because you work with people via Zoom. They don't have to be local to you, right?
Um, Not exactly. I host retreats in Asheville, North Carolina, in a beautiful, sexy Airbnb with its own hot tub and a
Ooh.
sexy space and a sex chair and a yoga
Oh,
swing.
I
And
love
I
it.
know y'all need to come here.
Yes.
Because I find that the in-person work, my retreats are very intensive, over a 3-hour period, over four
Oh,
or
wow.
5 days, right? So it actually has to happen in person. And then I'll continue coaching with them after I've worked
Okay.
with them, or a group retreat. But the way they can reach me and access my free gift, which is a really, you said like it takes a while, but not always, right? And so I created this amazing free gift. It's called 20 Minutes to Better Sex. It's got 7 3-minute videos that you can watch with your partner right away. And it's going to give you some very specific tools and tips, as I've already mentioned a couple of them, that will kind of immediately improve your sex life. And you can find that free gift at howtoimprovemylovelife.com. How to improve mylovelife.com. And that's the best way to connect with me as well.
Excellent. You guys, I'm going to put that link in the show notes. It will be here on the screen if you're watching. So do not hesitate to go click that link, check Janae out, and you share if you know somebody that needs this. I mean, we all deserve to have a very healthy, fulfilling, great sex life.
Totally.
It is our vitality. Do not let it dry up. Water it.
I love it.
Water it. Because if you're thirsty, you got to get it somewhere. No, I'm
You
kidding.
got
Yeah.
to get your water. You got to get your drinks in. No, that's very,
That's
very important.
yes. Janae, sorry. This is the part of the show I like to ask for last words of wisdom or advice. What would you like to leave with us today?
What I'd like to tell everybody is that pleasure is your birthright. And if you're not having pleasure in your body, if you're not having pleasure with your partner, you need to address it.
Yeah.
And there's
Amen.
help and support out. There's help and support for everyone out there.
Yes, I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing your gifts and having these open dialogues and conversations so that people know that there's someone like you out there that can help them if they're experiencing this loveless relationships because that I can't even imagine what that would feel like over time. I just in my mind, that would destroy me. Like you would lose part of yourself as a woman,
Yeah.
and like I think all women want to feel desired, and so to be in that situation has got to be so terrible. So reach out to her if you're experiencing that. But thank you so much for being an incredible guest. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for hosting this great podcast.
Thank you. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, review, comment, share, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.